What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. We have free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Strength Solutions Podcast at gmail.com if you want a fitness question answered. Strength Solutions Podcast for Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Okay, bro. I think you have a problem.
What is my problem?
You sound a little sick.
I do. I'm going to do my best today, y'all. Might be hearing a little sniffles. A little sneeze here and there.
Okay, so our number one topic is to talk about advantages and disadvantages of things that we use in the gym.
Okay.
And I think people are like, this is the best exercise. This is the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, they all have advantages.
Yeah.
And then disadvantages.
Correct, I believe so.
Now, all the rage in the world is about the barbell exercises, like deadlift, barbell squat, barbell bench press, overhead press, Olympic lifts. It's all gravy.
Those exercises have really come. I mean, I don't think that they've ever not been popular, but as of late.
No, they haven't been. They weren't popular around when I was going into college because there's a few squat racks. That's before CrossFit got big. Okay. And it was like the machine movement then.
I guess I did come in.
Those movements were bad for your back.
Right. Yeah. I did come in. I mean, I started working out in what, 2017? Yeah. And so I guess that is pretty late in the movement of fitness and exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the big advantages of barbell exercises is the output.
Mm-hmm.
You can have this total output of strength and power that you can't do anything with anything else, like the dumbbell, a kettlebell. Like you don't get that amount of power and strength.
Right.
Any other tool?
Yeah.
Can you think of any tool that you do?
Just the ability to load more weight, just because of the implement itself, right? Just the barbell allows you to add more weight to movements. So, I was talking to a client the other day about triceps exercises, and we're doing cables and things like that.
Did you show him your triceps when you did it?
Yeah,
You're
I was like, take a look at this real quick. And we were talking about skull crushers, and I was saying that we should do it with the barbell. And he was kind of asking why. And I was like, well, I mean, we could just load more weight. Just simply, I could just put more weight on the bar than I can do with anything else. And that's primarily one of the main advantages of it. And the fact that you get these like big compound double movements, right? I get to use both of my arms, my whole body doing a deadlift and things like that. Whereas with other movements, it's a little more isolating, or you just don't get as much of a stimulus.
Mm-hmm. And so with barbells too, you got to understand strength curves matter. Mm-hmm. And so let's say I'm doing a curl standing up, the hardest part's right in the middle. Mm-hmm. If I have my hands in front of me, it's like at the very beginning when I'm trying to curl. So with barbells, to implement like the full body, you have to do different angles with the barbell.
Right. And you have to work through different, like the weight is almost constantly changing, right? As you're moving through angles and the force and things like that. So your body has to work constantly and differently, right? Throughout the entire movement until the whole range of motion is done.
Now, the big disadvantage is you do bilateral movements a lot of times when you use a barbell. And because you do bilateral movements, this is where you may start leaning one way versus the other. And then you go in and you're more likely to injure yourself. Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm hurting. And it's just because when you're dealing with barbell exercises, you got to be careful to push right and left the same. And it's hard to tell in that way. Yeah.
You can develop imbalances pretty easily if you just do barbell exercises all the time. And I think doing barbell exercises is one of the best things to do with the trainer, because you have someone who's watching you, right?
Who can see you shift.
Who can see you shift your hips whenever you're doing a squat, or they can kind of look at you and see like, oh, your right arm is locking out before your left on the bench, and can point those things out so that whenever you are doing those movements, you can drive a little bit more or pay attention to where you're placing your power through your feet. So barbell exercises are really good when done with anybody else, really. I mean, I guess it doesn't really always have to be.
You can literally do barbell exercises with a runner, anybody, like get your squat up, get stronger. I literally had a guy who was over 65 plus yesterday, 2 days ago, barbell back squat for the very first time. But we didn't start there. Yeah. And I was like, look, you have the mobility and range of motion and strength, no pain in your back, and we can get you stronger now.
Yeah. Now we're in it.
We're in it. We're in it to win it. Now let's talk about dumbbells, right? So the big advantage of dumbbells is now you have that separation left to right. And that's awesome because now if your left hand's a little weaker than the right, you can't go up.
It's going to expose it.
It's going to expose the weakness. And what else is good about dumbbells is I believe dumbbells, you could do the most exercises more than any other machine cable without needing other items.
Whoa, that's a good statement there.
Isn't that true?
I agree.
Because you can place a dumbbell here, dumbbell here, dumbbell here, and then you could do dance, right? Like
you could floss.
You can floss with it. Yeah.
I always tell people, I'm like, if you're gonna build a home gym with like the least amount of equipment possible, you need adjustable bench and adjustable dumbbells. If you can get those two things, you can do a lot of exercises. You can do a lot of exercises, and changing the weights and things like that. I think dumbbells are super versatile. They challenge the stability, like you said, the unilateral movements. I think that there's still a pretty good tool that you can load relatively high, especially for some movements.
I like these for bodybuilders better because you can really isolate a little bit more versus a barbell exercise. You don't know where you're pushing from, right?
Right, yeah. And I think even doing dumbbell exercises helps you whenever you go back to doing barbell exercises because now, hey, if I had this imbalance on my bench, I worked with dumbbells a bit. Now that imbalance is not as bad or maybe gone, and then I can bench even better. So I think dumbbells are fantastic, man.
They're all goody good.
Oh yeah.
And then let's talk about machines and cables.
No, I don't want to.
No, you're done with it. Actually, I'm going to give you a big advantage for machines.
Okay.
Back exercises. Because it constantly pulls against you.
Yeah,
where it's really hard with using gravity and dumbbells, being chest supported with a dumbbell. It just does not work the same. Cable gives you just such a better feeling in the back.
Yeah. One of my, I don't want to say my least favorite exercises, but I think one of the ones that's hardest to get right is a good morning. Especially if you're
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Especially with a barbell. Placing it on the back, trying to hinge properly, doing all those things with it is hard to do. But you can do back extension type movements with cables, ropes. You can even do deadlift type movements with cables and things like that. And I really like cables, especially for, like you said, the constant pull. The weight doesn't change in the way that it does whenever you're doing barbells and dumbbells. The cable keeps it constant throughout the entire
strength curve is consistent.
So if it's 60 pounds at the bottom, it's 60 pounds at the top, and it's 60 pounds in the middle. So it's going to force you to kind of work through those sticking positions, the points where it's hardest. And so, again, there's just another tool, right, in the repertoire. And then you got machines.
Another advantage of it is you're less likely to get injured, right? But you also could get injured because you don't fit the machine. There's people who are too tall, too short. It all depends, right?
Yeah, we have a leg press at the gym that I work at, and for my shorter clients, it's just like too big.
You have to put like a pod.
So I have to put like a I was about to say mattress pad, like a balance pad, like on the thing. And hey, I don't know, maybe that's dangerous or whatever it is. So it's like machines aren't made for everybody; they're made for like a standard, right? And they don't work for everyone. But machines are also really good. I like using them when people are maybe coming back from a long time out, right? Or recovering. They're not as damaging. You can control the weight on it a lot more specifically, than you can on barbell or dumbbell, things like that. And it also takes away that sort of stabilization factor. So if they're having issues with that, it's a good way to kind of increase strength without having to work through that.
So I got a lot of older clients, and I like using the machine at the beginning just to build a little bit more strength and then put them back into the stability of the exercise later.
Sometimes you have to start with the machine, dude, because they just like don't have any strength at all, you know? And it's like putting you with a dumbbell or a barbell is, not smart. It's not a smart move to do. And so you just have to build a foundation of strength and just get people understanding how to move their body or get in touch with like, that's what my glutes feel like in a safe way.
And then you got landmines. No, so I really have grown to love landmines for what it is. It's really good with explosive work and core training. Like taking the load, because the angle at which the barbell is inside the landmine makes your core have to work in every single direction.
Mm-hmm. The landmine is very interesting. It's a different piece of equipment. And if you haven't used one, I think it's a smart idea to kind of throw it in sometimes. I even like to use it for clients who have like range of motion issues, like in shoulder pressing and things like that. I can still get them to work the shoulder and load pretty well without having to actually press all the way overhead. Or you can even work on your body angle, right? And kind of pulling your body angle down instead of trying to reach your hand higher up. And then I think it's also a pretty dynamic piece of equipment.
Very dynamic.
The angles you can move at, the fact that the landmine kind of goes 360 degrees all the way around, right? You can do lateral movements, back, angles, diagonal, all these types of things. And so it's a pretty cool dynamic piece of equipment there.
Yeah. I think the big disadvantage is you can't load a lot.
Yeah.
You got
one little piece. You
can't get that whole strength, but very good for dynamic and core.
Yeah, and I guess if you are doing dynamic and core movements,
I like it for athletes a lot.
Yeah, you're not really trying to load that much, so it's not really that important. But one of the guys is at our gyms, he uses bands on it a lot, and that's a really cool idea because I've seen him do like shoulder pressing with bands kind of attached to it and things like that. Changing the strength curve with it,
because when you press here, it's hard and then it gets easy.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And the band at the top would make it harder all the way through.
And then having to kind of control it on the way down and stuff. So it's just a really versatile piece of equipment. But I guess if you're looking for maximum strength, load, power, things like that, it may not be the right one.
Yeah. And then you got maces, Indian clubs, and kettlebells.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really good in rotation and really good in anti-rotation, like controlling the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be able to load a lot, but you're able to move through different degrees a little bit more.
It's funny because now that we talk about maces and clubs a lot, I've been seeing it more on my Instagram. And it's pretty cool, man. And I think there's also this cool, like, ancient history behind them, of like how they were
they kill people.
Yeah. And it's like the rotations you get around like the shoulder joint, having to stabilize against dynamic movement and things like that, balancing, right? Coordination, all of these things. They're super, super cool pieces of equipment. But yeah, I think in my head with the disadvantages with those is that you really can't do any of the traditional exercises with them. If you're looking for a chest movement or something like that, you could still work those muscles, just not in like traditional ways. And I feel like this is super, super skill based.
Yeah. And so what I like about this is we're showing you there's advantages and disadvantages to each. There's no perfect way to lift.
Right.
It's about how you use your body. I mean, literally, I got somebody today who had back pain. And we did basic squats. We used a kettlebell to grab onto because it pushes your body weight down. It doesn't go side to side. They were able to concentrate on their core a little bit more versus me using a dumbbell.
Yeah.
And they were able to squat in a 12-inch box.
Nice.
And they were able to do sit-ups today for the first time without pain forever.
Hell yeah, dude. So I mean, I think the perfect workout is kind of implementing all of these
throughout the year and throughout time.
Changing, phasing.
For the average person. We're not like if I'm dealing with the athlete or I'm dealing with a bodybuilder or I'm dealing with a strongman, we're going to lift a certain way more likely. Like I'm a powerlifter, I'm going to definitely lift with barbells, right? It's just what it is.
It's just what it is.
But for the average person, work. The best thing I think about the gym and how I learned most of my stuff is through play. Playing with equipment, playing with different angles.
Playground for adults, man.
Yeah. It's a big playground. All right. I really want to talk about this because my former client called me. He was like, dude, it's a good question for your podcast. And you know the guy. I told you it was.
Oh, you did. Yeah.
And he was like, tell people how much do you really need to work out? And you don't need to work out as much as you think. So I have a client who's been working out for years. And this happened today. We're talking about most people think you have to do like 5-6 days a week. She's like, 3 days is enough for me. Then 3 days of cardio and then 3 days of house stuff. And she's like, if I was to lift a little bit more, I would either have to take a cardio day or take away stuff that I do for the house away. Because she understands it's about balancing the amount of volume you do. That includes housework.
Yeah, it includes your whole day, right? Your whole life. It's funny because I just had a conversation with a client about that too. I did. And she asked me the same question. She was like, what's like a good amount of times to work out per week? And I was like, I think for like general population people, 2 to 3 is great.
Yeah, for strength training, right?
Yeah.
And plus your cardio,
right.
plus whatever housework.
And so I told her that because, we've talked about like, what does a perfect week look like, right? And I was like, it'd be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you strength train. Tuesday, Thursday, you do cardio. Saturday, you do some sort of recovery thing.
Yoga.
Yeah, Sunday, maybe you just kind of hang out at the house, do whatever. And the thing that I stressed to her, though, I was like, I think that it's important to point out, though, that when I'm saying these things, I just mean getting them done. It could mean that you do those 3 strength training days, and that's 20 minutes, right? You do 20 minutes a day. Your cardios, maybe you could do longer, maybe you could do less. Maybe your Saturday recovery day is a whole hour of hiking, right? It doesn't mean that you have to do an hour of each of these things or be in the gym for 3 hours for the strength training days, and you got to get at least 45 minutes of this. Are those optimal? Yeah. If you could do more, sure. But most people can't, right?
I mean, I've been so busy with my schedule. Like, I'm lucky if I get 45 minutes. Like today, I didn't even get to work out.
Yeah.
I had back to back all day. I had a meeting, and then I had a couple more back to back, and then I'm coming home and doing this.
Then you ate a Sammy.
Good old sandwich. Gotta get a sandwich.
Sandwich.
Yeah. So it doesn't take us. It doesn't take as much. It's about getting someone to help you prioritize what you need for you and your goals.
And finding what you're actually going to do and being consistent at it.
Yeah.
Right.
What's sad is we don't talk to these extremes and stuff like that. And there's people who like were making fun of Jeff Nippard in his videos. This is optimal training, and they're on top of the cable machine. And, like, okay, Jeff Nippard's doing his thing. He's like, oh, this is the optimal angle. This is this. Most people just need basic stuff. And then even with the guys who are making like fun of them because they're barbell guys.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do barbells. You don't have to touch a barbell at all in your life. You don't have to. Now, my goal for a lot of my clients is to touch a barbell and be able to do that mobility, just to have that tool. Right. And not be limited. So I think the internet's kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. It's fucking insane there.
You're wrong.
I'm scared.
I'm wrong. They're all wrong.
I'm stronger.
It's all about you, the individual, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I sent this to you a while back, and they were talking about Dave Ramsey and other influencers like Susan Orton.
Yes.
And all them. And like, they should be, penalized? What did he say? He said like, nobody should be like following these guys because they haven't changed their message, and the times have changed like how financials work.
Yeah. It's funny because, in the same way that like fitness has changed over the years, right? And how maybe what was beneficial in the 50s, right, has changed now because food is more abundant or lifestyle has changed and things like that. Financial advice has changed so much too. I mean, like if you look at the economic state we're in now, as opposed to maybe 10 years ago, it's completely different, right? And there's different challenges and different things that people face. You sent me something the other day that was talking about like the affordability of housing right now. Yeah. And how I think like, it was like 10% of housing right now.
10 to 15.
Is like
affordable to the medium income.
Right, which is like, the general population. Or maybe even the median income maybe isn't like even the general population anymore. Because I think you sent me something else the other day.
You're right.
Or maybe I saw it where it was like, there was like, if you take out the top, 1%, then the median incomes becomes like 70,000. If you take out, like another percentage, then the median income becomes like 32,000, right? And it's like, okay, well, what can you really afford on that, at this point now?
So yeah, I mean, people live in different places and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like
and then when there's financial literacy people who are like, you're just not financially literate, and that person doesn't make enough money.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard.
It's like, okay, my problem isn't that I'm not financially literate, I just don't have enough money.
I think we're at a moment we have to change the way we think. And even think about, and I brought this up because a lot of times people talk about toxic masculinity and stuff like that, and like men are always wrong on social media. But like, I think I sent you this, but it had like Bieber. Did I send you it? And like, there's like 40-year-old women like giving him kisses on stage. Oh, yeah. They're asking him inappropriate questions. He's like a teenage boy.
Yeah.
But not one person said it was wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if that happens to a woman, and I think people, and I'm just pointing this out because we got to get out of our heads and our own biases. So like when I had a talk with a client and talking about, well, when boys get taken advantage of a teacher, they're like, oh, he probably loved it and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where a girl's like, oh, poor girl or whatever. And it's just a poor kid at the end of the day, right? Like we need to change our mentality of the way we think about boys and girls take each individual situation too within things, right?
Yeah.
Like, how old is this person? Are they giving consent?
Why are they being victimized, right?
Yeah.
I know this is kind of funny, but South Park did an episode about this.
Whoa. We don't talk about South Park.
A long time ago. And, you know, I was talking about South Park with a client the other day because I was like, you know, this show's been on for so long. And in a time where a lot of things are getting like canceled and shit like that, they're still on doing their shit. And I was like, maybe they're grandfathered in, right? Because they've just been around for so long. But I think that the reason that they still kind of survive is because they point out issues in a satirical way. And no one is like safe, right? Yeah. Like there's an episode where
except for us,
where one of the characters' brothers is getting like assaulted by a teacher, and he's like going to the police and like trying to get help, and they're like, "Oh, nice, like, yeah, that's awesome," you know. And he's like, "What the fuck? Like, why won't anybody help me?" And it's like they're bringing attention to an issue, right? And it's like it's comical because you're like, "What the fuck is happening right now? Like, why are we not, you know, serious about this stuff?" But it still happens now, you know. And it's
really
sad.
interesting. And me and Amanda have this conversation all the time. Like, people view things from their point of view. They never step into the other person's shoe and see what life is like in their life.
Yeah.
And I was talking about like the way we do our assessment and stuff like that. Like the first thing is getting to know people and how do we need to view through their lens. What's going on in their life? What's correcting their physical? What's creating their physical issues? What's creating the hard part for them to lose weight? What's creating this? Because if I don't get out of my perspective and I'm like a gym bro, like all you got to do is this, like why can't you just do this?
Yeah.
Then I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Because I am not taking your whole life experiences to why it's hard. You may have grew up in a household where they're already shoving seconds down your throat.
Yeah.
Like it's a hard habit to break. How do I have empathy and help you through this process? How do I set you up for success is the question at the end of the day, right? And I think a lot of people who are in the fitness space are all about their side of things. I mean, I just sent you that raw milk thing, I think today.
Oh, where they're taking shots?
Yeah. It's ridiculous, right?
It's so
like,
silly.
How many people got access to really good raw milk? Is raw milk really that great for certain people?
Yeah.
Like, are we willing to like mass produce this? And then all of a sudden there's a lot of people who die because they get some sort of disease from it.
I mean, the reality is that people shouldn't even be drinking milk anyway. Like a lot of people don't.
I drink my milk.
But yeah, I don't know.
Milk's not bad for you, dude. Don't be that extreme.
No. I mean, like it's that. I know that as time goes on,
all because you're lactose intolerant. Don't hate.
Like lactose intolerant lives matter.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with that is like, I guess the point is that we're trying to reduce the amount of like processing and foods and things like that, and you know, getting rid of dyes. And
processed foods are not bad. There's a situation where people are in deserts or they're in a hungry state, and it's the only way to preserve food.
And like highly caloric, sodium rich food is a good thing.
So I've gotten clients in the past who are older, and they're telling me like, "Well, we used to eat fried chicken and fried this," and I was like, "Yeah, but you're also in an era where you moved all the time, so you needed extra calories." Yeah. Right. So fried food didn't really affect you as much.
Or highly salted food needed to be around because they needed to be preserved longer, right? Or things like that. So, oh man, yeah,
it's all situations.
It's all just got changed.
How do you want to live your life? How do you want to be a good person? It has nothing to do with like all because someone has 6-pack abs does not mean they're mentally good. All because somebody has $1 million does not mean they know what they're doing.
Hell no. Yeah.
It's all about how do you want to live your life as an individual? How can we help you get there? Is a question. Whether it's physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, whatever you need, right? And before we go into our studies, I really want to talk about this. You know, we talk about toxic masculinity, and then like people are like, why aren't women's sports as popular as they should be? We should be supporting these women. And they did a study on this. It happens to be that men support women's sports more than women.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It was like by a whole like 15 to 20%, almost most countries.
Viewership of women's sports primarily comes from men, right? And I know, dude, because I was reading this and I was like, oh God, like I know someone's going to be like, well, it's just because they just want to see the girls running around and like
there's probably a case, and that would be like beach volleyball and stuff. But I've watched women's basketball, WNBA, when the Houston Comets had Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper, when I was little and I was watching for the sport.
Yeah.
And I've seen the sport get better. I watched the MLS before what the MLS is today. So I just think men inherently enjoy sports more than women.
Sports is like a concept, right? As opposed to like it being men versus women or things like that. And so, and you know, the other day I was looking at the 10 Men and they were talking about like, what was your red pill moment? And someone said that one of their moments was when they found out that like women's sports or women who played sports were getting paid more than like the men's team. Remember that when that was happening in the Olympics, I think it was with like the United States soccer team. And then everybody was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, you know, they get paid more even though they were like, we need equality. It's like, it's this thing where
the problem is when they point out this equality issue, they talk about the top, right? Like the NBA players.
Yeah.
Like you can't compare. These guys are bringing in marketing bucks.
Yeah.
To everybody. So like
at that point, it's not about men or women, right? It's just about
what do they bring in?
It's just about the popularity of whatever's being put on TV, right?
Yeah. And I just think like at the end of the day, if women really want women's sports to thrive, they need to watch more.
They need to watch it, man.
When men are watching it and doing it. And I'll say the WNBA, I was watching while I was on the treadmill and Caitlin Clark through this pass, this dime.
She's a badass.
I was like, dang, dude.
Yeah.
But you got to support. You got to put your money where you want to see them get money. You know, when the NBA is subsidizing the WNBA, you know, it's a problem.
If women watched sports at the same rate as men, you know, women's sports, I bet it would have a higher viewership.
Correct.
Because there's a combination of both men and women watching the sport, whereas I'm sure most major sports right now are, you know, 90%.
Football's the exit.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, Taylor Swift, you know?
But I think this leads to a bigger issue, right, Steve? Actually, that's part of the viewership, right?
It is. Yeah.
Think about the viewership went up because Taylor Swift. I think just it goes back to like thinking as an individual. Like I think too many times we're so much about like equal pay, equal this, when we're not looking at the dynamics of it, right? Like I've read studies too that have pointed out that they are getting paid equal. It's just depending on jobs that they're doing. And then they've even found in like Google and stuff like that, that the women did get paid more than the men because they're afraid of the equal pay thing. And so we got to take back, again, situation to situation. I'm not saying it's across the board like that because there's places probably where women are getting paid less than men and they're doing the same job. But the problem is we like to put this blanket statement over everything. And that's not how the world works. Yeah. That's why we got to get back into smaller communities, smaller things, like really help the people that are in front of us as much as possible. All right. So study number 1, it's about stress, depression factor into link between insomnia, heavy drinking. A new study suggests that perceived stress, depression factor into relationship between insomnia, hazardous drinking, perhaps not a surprise, but because the relationship between insomnia and heavy drinking goes in both directions, the influence of stress and depression depends on which condition came first, the analysis has found.
Interesting.
So that's the study I have for today.
On which one came first?
Yeah. So they can't decide because stress can trigger drinking. Drinking can trigger insomnia. Or stress can trigger insomnia, and insomnia triggers drinking so that that person could try to sleep, right? And then they're stressed because they can't sleep.
Man, that's crazy.
Isn't it crazy like how a cycle it is?
It's circular, right? And I think that's why it becomes such a hard habit to break, right? Whatever it is that is setting it off. And then trying to pinpoint which one it is in your own life, right? Talking about individualism and stuff like that. Like, what is your actual problem? Is it the drinking? Is it that you're not following your sleep schedule right? And so you're drinking to try and stay asleep. And then because you're drinking, right, we all know that that affects your sleep cycle and you never actually get rested whenever you're drunk, right? And then you fall asleep. You never enter that REM cycle the same way. And so it's this huge cycle. And
how do you break it though?
How do you break it, right? And I think we need to talk. I think
Crack.
you need to stay up for like 5 days and then you'll be tired. I think it was last podcast we talked about how like a quarter, 3 out of 4 children have parents that struggle with addiction.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's tough because you got to like focus on these things. And I think we also have to understand how difficult they really are. And drinking has become such a like commonplace thing.
Not with the younger kids though. The younger kids are going.
It has changed, right? Yeah, it has changed. I know that Gen Z is like not drinking alcohol as much. I know we've done studies on how like non-alcoholic beverages are a lot more.
They're making THC beverages.
Yeah. But I don't know anymore because it's fucking illegal in Texas now.
Is it really? They already passed it through.
They passed it.
Oh, okay.
So you better go to the store right now.
Go get it. You know, at the end
Cops waiting there.
I think again, it comes back to people don't feel cared about. People are lonely.
There's a problem.
There's no community. There's no, people in front of you like, hey, I'll just do this for you just to help you. It's always now with like, if I give you this, you owe me this much money.
Transactional. It's
all transactions. And when we make everything transactions, it's not as good. It just isn't. I want to do something just to help you. And when we start adding just transactions to everything, I know there's like one person I talked to, and I was like, if you had a kid, I'd go babysit. Like, she's like, really? Would you? Like, and I was like, yeah, like I babysit my nieces and stuff. Like, it's not a big deal. If you need a day off, I'll do it. I even offered for one of my clients, hey, I literally, if you need to go pick up that chair at the store, I know your back hurts a little bit. I'll go pick it up and I'll take it to put it in your car. And then from there, I'll take it in your house and stuff like that. And I'll get it into your house for you. And it's just like, we need to be good people. That's what we need to go back to at the end of the day. And I think being part of good people is understanding that in fitness, everything's a tool. In nutrition, everything's a tool. What do you need? How can I help you? Every type of doctor there is. We need to quit blaming doctors and that they don't spend enough time. Like, they're just trying to do their best. And they're trying to help and be okay. Find someone who's going to take care of you and help you, give you the time, and then figure things out yourself. Don't automatically like, oh, they didn't tell me the answer, so I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. Take yourself and go find the answer too, as well. Find that community that cares and then take advantage and build yourself up.
Damn. Sometimes you just hit it, man.
Smashed it. All right, guys, if you like what we're doing, we're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe, like. Then, if you're looking for an amazing place, strengthsolutionspodcast.com, free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Then, strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us future fitness questions. Also, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
The deuces, we out.
My hat says swamp ass. You see that?